From Ticker Studios, this is Beyond the Deal, presented by Besser & Co.
What is next for Australia's property market, and where are the opportunities for buyers and sellers? I'm Aaron Young, and Beyond the Deal starts right now. Okay, now property prices remain under pressure from affordability challenges, interest rate uncertainty, and also the changing buyer behaviour. It is a wild world out there at the moment, creating a market where both buyers and sellers need more information and to be a bit more strategic than ever. I'm joined in the studio by Dion Besser from Besser & Co. Great to see you, sir.
Thanks for having me back.
Of course, there are so many things going on in the property market at the moment. How would you describe the current property market as it stands?
I would describe it as fickle at the moment. It's, there's a lot of noise about all the news going on in the world.
The budget, the interest rates, Iran, uncertainty about prices,
correct,
whether people are still buying.
I think there's an impression that it's all doom and gloom. And, I think through the haze, there is a lot of opportunity as well.
I always think of that Billy Joel song, "We Didn't Start the Fire," right? So yes. It's always been like this. There's always something. We kind of crashed out of COVID into this. It just always carries on. Correct. And property is one of those investments that is always there, right?
Correct. Things go up and down all the time. And we've been through markets like this before. Yes, the reasoning around why the market's performing the way it is at the moment may be a little bit different to the last time the market adjusted itself. But there is a lot of noise. There is, I think, a misinterpretation, but I also see a lot of opportunity out there.
The million-dollar question, is now a good time for buyers to enter the market, or should they be waiting for something?
Absolutely. Now is an incredible time to be getting into the market. And what's interesting about the psychology of buyers in the marketplace is that when they're standing there at an auction and not bidding against anybody, they choose not to bid. But when there are 3 or 4 other people bidding against them, that's when they decide.
That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It's an incredible opportunity. And there's this impression out there that there are actually no buyers, but there are plenty of buyers in the marketplace just at a now adjusted
do you think
level.
Because it's a buyer's market right now, do you think buyers are waiting for things to get worse so that they can get cheaper prices?
I don't think it's going to get worse. That's the thing. I think there's this impression that things are bad right now, and there's a lot of news, and we've got interest rates being announced shortly. We've obviously got geopolitical issues. We've got a state election.
Inflation continues to rise. There's a lot of uncertainty.
Correct. There's a lot of uncertainty out there, but now's an incredible time. And to make it really clear to the viewers, today, this market is going to be a moment in time that people look back at and go, I wish I could have bought at that particular moment.
Now, Melbourne's a really interesting market as well. Obviously, yes, all parts of the country are very different. What's your advice to buyers in the Melbourne market specifically?
Now's the time to buy.
Okay.
Now's the time to buy. If you are in a position where you're ready to buy, meaning you've got your finance approved, you've had your solicitor look at the contract in Section 32, you've sold a property so you now know how much you've got, you're in the strongest position to buy something. Be decisive, because this moment in time will pass and you'll look back and go, I should have bought now.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one as well. So your advice to buyers in this environment, aside from just get involved, just do it, the old Nike slogan,
yes,
what else would you say to people? What should they be looking out for?
I think there's a lot of opportunity out there for buyers to negotiate with vendors and their agents at the moment.
On price or on other things as well?
On price. It's an interesting market where there's very little stock on the market, but at the same time, we're starting to see things adjust. And I don't think they're going to continue adjusting. So I think if you find the property that you like and that you can afford, make sure to have a go. Negotiate. Don't do nothing. Do something, see if it eventuates into a purchase.
Have you seen these conditions before in your time?
Absolutely. If I can just speak to the last 6 or 7 years, in 2019, we had a Royal Commission. It was actually when I purchased my first property in 2019, and it wasn't through any genius that I bought it at that particular moment. I was just ready to buy. We turned up to an auction where there was very little interest in the property, and we just had a go. Yes, it happened to be a great moment to buy, but we were just ready. So 2019, the very beginning of COVID, when people there was a bit of shock and awe around what was going on. There was a few months there before the market shot up.
That was a weird time, wasn't it? We were talking about quantitative easing. We were talking about the Australian economy being in a really bad time. But as you say, you now look back and say, gosh, the halcyon days of 2019 before the world turned upside down.
Correct.
It seemed so much more stable. The words being, it could get worse. Enjoy it while it lasts.
I think that eventually interest rates will go down.
Okay.
right? And historically, interest rates aren't high. They're just high for the generation that are buying today, such as my generation.
A lot of people say, though, that the issue isn't about how high they are. It's about how much money people owe now compared to in the past. Is that the biggest issue here?
That is the biggest issue. I mean, there's obviously a disparity between, people's wages, their earnings, their savings, and interest rates today.
Particularly for first-home buyers.
Correct, absolutely. But there's a lot of opportunity as well. And I can tell you now, interestingly enough, people will find that money when interest rates go down. So you can say today, I don't have the money because of interest rates, but it's amazing how as they start to move downwards, somehow people find the money and they start bidding competitively again.
It is interesting to see, isn't it, how that happens. Talk to us about sellers then, because if buyers are being told buy, is now a good time to sell, or should sellers be maybe waiting a little bit longer?
So I'm going to buck a bit of a trend here. Most agents will tell you it's always a great time to sell.
Of course, they need the work.
It isn't a great time to sell now unless you need to. But why it is a great time for some to sell is because if you're looking to transition, if you're looking to upsize your family home, if you're looking to sidestep or downsize into something a little bit smaller, now's a great time to sell so that you can buy. I would also argue that, people who have owned apartments as an investment property for a very, very long period of time and they just haven't seen the growth, I would probably recommend that now is not a bad time to be selling your apartment. Against all the other advice that people say, there's renewed interest from investors coming from interstate, an enormous number of investors who are coming from interstate, and they're buying positively gearing. They're not negatively gearing. There are first home buyers coming into the marketplace now who are taking advantage of the market adjusting itself and the amount of stock. It's actually not a bad time to sell if you've got a better use for the money somewhere else.
Would your suggestion in that case be to hold on to the property that you want to sell for a little bit longer while you buy right now what you want to buy?
Yes, if you can do that. If you can buy now and sell a little bit later.
I'm just thinking about the empty nesters. You were talking before about those people who are downsizing. Maybe buy the apartment or wherever you're planning to downsize, but hold on to what you have until it turns. Would that be fair advice?
If you can. If you can. What I find with the people who are sidestepping or downsizing is that they actually need to...
They need the money.
They need the money from their principal place of residence, which has increased in value over the last 15, 20, 30 years. They've now got the capacity to go and buy something. But interestingly enough, what they want to replace their previous home with is almost the same value. Some of the apartments out there today are just as expensive as some of their family homes, and quite often...
And not to mention the body corporate fees, that makes it feel like you're renting long term.
And they're going up as well.
Yeah.
But, I mean, some of these apartments are very expensive, right? And
very beautiful, but very expensive.
Very expensive to get into a really nice big apartment, and most downsizers would like to be left with something after they've sold their principal place of residence.
That is always the hope, because you never know what's going to hit you next. I'm interested in the conversations you are having with people, with clients in the broader market as well. Talk to me about how people are feeling.
I think it's mixed out there. I think there is this impression out there that everything is doom and gloom, but like I said, I think there's a lot of opportunity. And I speak to so many different types of buyers and sellers. I speak to investors. I speak to first home buyers. We speak to people who are looking to upsize the family home. I think that's probably the hardest market right now, that family unit who are looking to get into a bigger home and they've got a couple of kids at school looking to get into a new school.
Why is it hard?
Well, they have their own personal overheads. By the time you pay the mortgage, the cost of living, and all the other expenses that come along with having a family, then finding the deposit and the money to increase your mortgage into a bigger family home. That's probably the hardest pocket right now, the $1.5 to $3 million pocket of the world, at least in the southeastern Bayside suburbs of Melbourne and Stonington. But it's mixed out there. But I think, like I said, there's a lot of opportunity now. And if you are in a position to act, now's the time to do so. Okay,
you mentioned investors during that answer. I need to bring you back to the federal budget now, because obviously there's a lot of negative talk about the impact of negative gearing and CGT changes there as well. Is that having a material impact on how people are feeling when it comes to buying or selling?
I think it's having a material impact on how people are feeling, because they've been playing by the rules for so long. And
feeling about what?
Feeling about the rules of the game changing on them. midway. And then you've got also a lot of investors who are planning on entering the marketplace. They were planning on negative gearing, and now they are no longer able to. But what's interesting about the investors is that there is an enormous cohort of people who are looking to invest and positively gear. And we're seeing those buyers coming, those investors coming through from Perth, Brisbane and Sydney. And what they're doing is they're accessing equity in their personal home, their principal place of residence, or another investment property, which has seen enormous amounts of growth in the last 5 or 6 years. They're accessing that equity and now investing it into Melbourne because the prices are at where they are.
Dion, I have to put to you what the Federal Treasurer's perspective is, and even the Prime Minister, who's been out trying to explain the changes in the budget. They say this is about making things fairer and even cheaper for first home buyers, which means that house prices have to come down further if they are right. Is the Treasurer wrong or right when he says that house prices will continue to fall in order to make it easier for people to get access?
I think it's very short-sighted, personally.
In what way?
I think property prices have already adjusted. And I think we've seen property prices in Melbourne and Victoria adjust as a result of the land taxes that came in not long ago. Obviously, interest rates that have gone up this year, cost of living pressure, and just the enormous number of investors who are now transitioning into their retirement years, who are now selling down their assets and liquefying what they've created. So I think the property market's already adjusted. I think we're going to see the moment interest rates start to go down, I think you're going to start to see the market shoot back up, and I think it's actually very short-sighted what they've done.
What do you see happening in the higher end of the market as well?
We've already seen property prices since October, November last year probably adjust themselves by as much as 10 to 15%, but not on downwards. That's correct. And it's not every single property. Good properties always sell well. So properties that require no work, properties with very
solid foundations,
attractive floor plans in really good locations, they're still doing very well. We're still seeing competition for those types of properties. But yes, there is a lot of choice out there. The market is becoming fussier. The buyers are becoming fussier. And we're seeing a lot of opportunity for buyers to negotiate.
And just quickly, what's your outlook for the rest of the year?
I think there's going to be an interest rate decision very shortly. And that's going to have an impact on probably what happens moving forward. I think the domestic issues the domestic things that we're having happening here in Victoria and in Australia are probably going to impact the property market more so. I think it's already come down. I think it's going to stabilise. And I think eventually, like every moment in time where we see markets adjust themselves, things will pick up. Certainty will come back to the marketplace, and we'll start to see that market shoot back up again.
Fingers crossed. I hope you're right, Dion Besser. Always appreciate your insights on Ticker. Thank you.
Thanks for having me back.
You're watching Ticker. Beyond the Deal is presented by Besser & Co. For more, visit besserco.com.au.